Peace, peace, peace. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know, it's your boy Vic Slang Hope, and I got another video for y'all. This video, we're going to be doing another one of the 48 Laws of Power. This one is law number 47. Do not go past the mark you aim for. In victory, learn when to stop. And I'm going to read the judgment. It says, the moment of victory is often the moment of greatest peril. In the heat of victory, arrogance and overconfidence can push you past the goal you had aimed for, and by going too far, you make more enemies than you defeat. Do not allow success to go to your head. There is no substitute for strategy and careful planning. Set a goal, and when you reach it, stop. Right now, they give a few examples, but one of the main examples is Cyrus, right? Who became to be known as Cyrus the Great, king of the world. He kind of like brought the Persian Empire together. And he conquered like a few empires, and he also conquered Babylon, right? To name a few. And after conquering Babylon, he was known as Cyrus the Great, right? And you know, he let his victory kind of like get to his head. He kind of like felt like, you know, I could conquer some more people, right? Even though he already had a vast territory. So what he did was he tried to conquer this other territory with this queen. I forgot her name. Tamiris. I might be saying that wrong. But she ended up defeating Cyrus the Great, right, and his army. So the point of the story, this one's going to be a little short one, right? The point of the story is that, like, when you get to a certain point, you know, you need to just stop. Like, when you hit your mark, it doesn't even make sense to keep going. Like, he didn't have to keep going after conquering Babylon, right? Because Babylon was actually a prominent city. It had a lot of riches, it had a lot of gold. There was a lot of good things going on in Babylon. So once he conquered that, he really didn't even he didn't really have the need to conquer the other barbaric states or other tribes that were going on, that were around. But because it got to his head, power got to his head, he was like, you know, I could expand some more. I could go over there and take over that. And a lot of times that happens to us, right? The same thing happens with gambling. Gambling is a prime example of this, right? You ever been gambling and you hit, and then it's like, you know, you should stop, right? But it's like you're always thinking about, I can make more money. You know, we always thinking about the greed within us, right? I could make more money. And then the same thing happens when you lose, right? Because when losing is a little different, because when you're losing, it's not really talking about the losses here, but when you're losing, it's the same thing. Like, you're trying to get back. You're trying to get back what you lost. But it's almost the same effect when you're winning. You know, you hit for 5,000, you feel like I could get 5 more. You hit for another 5, you feel like stocks is the same thing, right? When I was buying and selling stocks at one point, the same thing happens. Like, some stocks are not meant to be kept long term to get dividends, right? Some stocks is just like they hot for a little bit right now, and you supposed to sell them, right? But sometimes when you're making money, you know, and I'm not that well versed in stock, but sometimes when you're making money and that joint is hitting and people are buying into it, you be like, you kind of like don't want to sell it because you're thinking like, I can make more money. So it's almost like the same thing. When you conquer, when you're winning, when you know, when you up, the chips is up, you're always thinking about, I can make more. The greed within us, right? Which it says, there's nothing more intoxicating than victory and nothing more dangerous, right? Because, you know, when we win, that shit get through our head. It's almost like when you win fights. You know, sometimes when you beat somebody up or you taking over territory, you kind of like start to feel like nobody could beat me. Like, nobody gonna do nothing to me. Nobody gonna touch me. Nobody, you know, y'all know what I'm talking about. If you've been out there beating on people, or if you've been out there and people were scared of you, it gets to your head, right? When you never really took L's, it gets to your head until you really take that L, right? Sometimes a lot of dudes get killed this way, right? Because the victories that they accomplish in the neighborhood or whatever in life, right? They kind of like it fuels their ego. So yeah, so it's very dangerous sometimes when you have a goal. If your goal is a specific goal, it's you got to be specific and you got to know when to stop, because when you keep accumulating victories, it could kind of like get to your head. So this one is gonna be a short one. It's not really too long, but it's just be mindful when you have a goal set in your mind. The same thing happened in Nazi Germany, right? Um, Hitler got a few victories. He fast victories at that, right? He invaded a few countries. He took over quickly, and then he kept getting greedy, right? To the point where he felt like he was going to beat the Russians. He invaded Russia, and it cost him, right? He thought he was going to invade Russia and beat them, and he was winning for the most part. But then winter caught up with him, frostbite, and the resiliency and the Russian people kind of like never gave up. So it cost them in the long run. He lost a lot of his troops in Russia, which kind of like led to the demise of Germany, right? Now, if he were to beat Germany, I mean, if he were to beat Russia, we probably would be having a different conversation right now. But yeah, his greed led him to kind of like destroy what he had built. The same thing that Cyrus did, and the same thing that a lot of people do in the streets. The Muslim empires, kind of like the same thing happened to them. They expanded. When you expand too far, when you become too big, it's hard to keep track of certain people, right? The same thing happened to the Panther Party within the country. Even though, of course, the government kind of like sent agents, but why was that so successful? Because when you get too big, it's hard to keep track of who's coming into your movement. The same thing happens when you're taking over territories and countries. It becomes too hard to consolidate true rule, because it's like it's too much territory, right? And the more you take over, the more enemies you build along the way. It's kind of like the United States, right? It's only a matter of time before the United States, kind of like faces the same thing, right? Because of their expansion, because of all the bases they got around the world, right? A lot of people don't like the United States. A lot of people play cool, they play nice, for now, but it's gonna come a time where a lot of those enemies that they built throughout the years is gonna come back to bite them in the ass. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe. Stay blessed. Peace.